If you're a spirit-led coach or healer ready to lead with love and boldness, this episode is for you. We're revealing the leadership blind spot that keeps you stuck in survival mode, and by the end, you'll discover a free resource to help you tune in and ask, what does your heart have to say about growing your business? And a very special resource, but you'll have to listen to the end to discover what that is. Hi, and welcome to the You World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life, health, transformational coaches, and spiritual entrepreneurs stepping up to be the change that they seek in the world. I'm your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist, on a mission to help coaches and entrepreneurs amplify their voice, monetize their mission, and get visible, leveraging podcasts and Substack. Today, we are chatting with Gayle Nowak. Gayle is helping spirit-led coaches and healers create authentic, healthy business relationships without hiding or silencing themselves. Welcome to the show, Gayle. It's nice to have you here.
It's so great to be here, Jill. I'm honored.
So, let me ask you the big question, and then we'll get started. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, what's the most significant thing in your opinion as individuals we can do to make an impact on how the world is going?
That is a big question. And I would say, I believe the biggest impact we can have on the world is taking full personal responsibility for our own energy, our thoughts, our emotions, our actions, and especially our stories. And when we're taking that radical ownership of how we're showing up, how we're being, what we believe, how we respond or react to things, what we choose to express or not only do we shift our personal experience, we shift the energetic field around us. And that might sound simple as I'm describing it. And the doing of it is maybe a little bit more challenging because it means facing ourselves, it means facing our shadows with compassion. It means healing the parts of us that still might be silencing our truth. It means choosing to communicate from a place of grounded integrity instead of fear or people pleasing or codependency. And it means that we stop outsourcing our power, whether that's to old narratives or societal conditioning or past pain. And it's really about embodying the change that we want to see. So, in my work, I really support my clients, those spirit led coaches and healers, in doing that, in coming home to their truth, in reclaiming their voice and expressing themselves in a way that's soul aligned and emotionally coherent. Because when you do that, it improves things for you, of course, but it also gives others permission to do the same. And it creates that ripple effect in your business, your relationships, your community. And so I really believe that if we want to heal the collective or we want to change the collective, it starts in here inside of us. And that's really how we elevate humanity and change the world.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's really starts around the stories we tell ourselves.
Right. It
Yeah.
does. It does. Yeah, and those those stories have a really deep impact on us. A lot of my work is around how is the past influencing us in the present. Um, I know for me, my story actually starts when I was 9 years old, and I made a vow to be silent, to keep quiet, to stay safe. And at that time I was experiencing abuse in my family, and I was terrified to say anything about that. I was really worried about how would that impact other people, how would it hurt people. And so there was already this narrative starting of, geez, my truth might hurt someone else, right? And then when I finally spoke up about it years later, what I thought might happen actually didn't happen. What ended up happening was it was met with silence. So my truth was denied, it was ignored, it was buried by those closest to me. And that moment really taught me that not only might my truth hurt someone, it actually doesn't matter. And I started to really believe that, hey, what's the point? What's the point? It doesn't matter anyway. And so fast forward into adulthood, and I've always been into communication. I have a career in marketing communications and PR and branding, and then I started my own business supporting others and telling their stories. So story was always a part of what I was doing professionally, yet here I was hiding the story that mattered most.
Mhm.
Hiding it from my clients, hiding it, frankly, from my own husband. Had told him about my past, and that was certainly having an impact on our relationship. And so, even though I was showing up, networking, showing up online, I was doing all the visibility things on the outside, it was really masking my invisibility that I was carrying on the inside. And it really wasn't until I began healing the trauma around my past experiences and the trauma around my story that I was able to start to connect the dots of, oh, this is actually why I care so much about helping other people be seen and heard and felt and and understood and respected. And that's, when I started to do that work, and integrate it into my business, that's really when things started to shift for me.
It's interesting how we all have trauma and how that trauma shapes how we come into service in the world.
Mm,
So I find it a beautiful thing with most coaches that I come across. It's like,
yeah.
and it really is changing the world because as we talk about our stories and as we share um, our authentic selves instead of that veneer that we've been trained and programmed into accepting as reality, it does shift how others interact with us, how we interact with other people, and it does make the world a kinder, better place for everybody.
Yeah, it really does. It might be a little confronting
Mhm.
to make that shift. I don't know if you've noticed that in your own experience and
Mhm.
maybe those who are tuning in, making the shift from hiding in plain sight to really reclaiming your authentic voice, particularly when you're around people who are used to you being a certain way.
Mhm.
It does shake things up, right? You start to get very clear about who's in your sphere of influence because of how you performed versus because of who you are. So it can be a little confronting at first. And I know in my experience, I had certain people fall away. But really, I think what that's all about is anything that's false tends to fall away. And you still feel what you feel about it. There may be grief, there may be sadness, feelings of betrayal around that. And it makes space to bring in those people, clients, collaborators, partners, what have you, who really are resonating with who you truly are. And so it is a beautiful thing because then, you get that energy in a room and working together on something and it's magic.
Yeah. New things come up and it just like worlds change from
Yes.
connections and people vibrating in the same energy and moving in the same direction. It's just like I don't know, it energizes me. It makes me excited because I
Mm.
see things coming that are just like, ah, it's so magical. So, what do you think the impact on communicating authentically, honestly, and openly have on your business?
Yeah, I would say that, part we've touched on it, already is when you're when you're not operating or you're not hiding from the world and you're not operating from a place of needing to compensate for those invisible wounds, you're attracting people who actually resonate with your truth, right? If you've got that wounding in your field, you're more likely to attract that back in to you, right? And so there's no judgment here, right? I've been there, probably, probably we've all been there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We're getting what we're getting what's coming to us by what we're putting out. And so when we're actually in our authentic voice, we're going to have a connection that's going to be more authentic, right? And I would say that the other piece of it is, sharing what's true for you really helps clients and collaborators feel you, feel the real you, not just see you as what you can do for them, not just see your expertise and your credentials, but really experience you for who you truly are. And then the third thing I would say is that relationships become more reciprocal, more grounded, more soul nourishing when they're built on truth, not performance or not pretending.
I was I posted something over on Facebook the other day. It had to do with your core values. And I think core values and boundaries really
Mm.
need to be brought into this conversation because they really intertwine with the stories we tell ourselves and the stories we tell other people, or we hope that other people experience from our interaction with them because they're going to make up their own stories about what those interactions are. And I was looking for people to write down what their core values were, and I was noticing that they were like little haikus. Because if you have your three core values, the most important one is usually in the middle, and it's sandwiched between two that have to do with you and have to do with the outside world. It was just something that I noticed from the pieces that other people were putting down. I thought it was really interesting. But in my experience, when you know what your core values are and you're willing to like just anchor into them, it gives you a center point for judging. And I do think people need to be more judgmental. We don't have to accept everything into our sphere. Just because somebody said something doesn't mean we have to react to it. We have to even acknowledge it, or we have to live our life in that way. We are here as individual beings and we can do whatever we want. Might not like the consequences, but we really can do whatever we want. And there are always consequences. So there's always a like a back and forth between what your core values are and trying to stay attached to that rock foundation and your boundaries. What are you willing to put up with? And what won't you put up with? And sticking to that. And it's not about bossing other people around. It's for you. You have boundaries for the things that you're going to hold on to in your own life, and boundaries that you put up for other people. It's like you have a perfect right to think or be or act however you want, but I choose in my own sovereignty to not be a part of that or to associate with that. So that's what the blocks button's for.
I love that you're bringing this into the conversation because boundaries is a huge piece of this.
Mhm.
And I'm also hearing, discernment. You use the word judgment, and we can use that word, right? I think judgment
Yeah,
sometimes gets a bad rap. Um, and I also think that judgment is a little bit different than being judgy. And
yeah.
also, this piece around what you're available for and what you're not available for. That's really what boundaries is
Mhm.
all about for
Yeah.
me, right? It's not about putting up walls. It's being very clear about what your own limits are. And natural consequences too, right? Like that's what I'm hearing you saying too. We may not always like the outcome of the actions that we're taking, and that's the natural consequences of the choices that we make. So I love this part of the discussion in our conversation here because I I work with a lot of clients, and this is true for me too, where we care, we're compassionate, and we're empathic, we're sensitive, we really care about how others are feeling and what they're experiencing, often to the detriment of our own experience. And we're not necessarily either skilled or comfortable with setting boundaries because we think that that means something about us, that we're not as caring as maybe we think we are, right? And yet what I find is that those boundaries create clarity, and clear is kind.
Yes.
Clear is kind, right? So it's a balance, and it's a delicate balance. And sometimes we make mistakes and it gets messy, but when you're someone who is on this path of communicating authentically, being open, being honest, and you're committed to learning how to show up that way, but also you're okay with receiving whatever comes. And you're okay with, okay, I made a mistake. There was a rupture here. How do I repair this? That actually creates a lot of freedom and liberation versus trying to hold everything in and be perfect and not mess up, right? And not make mistakes.
And sometimes I think it's the freedom to decide whether you consider it a mistake. Because sometimes people will come at you and say, "Oh, that was a big mistake," and you're like, No, no, it wasn't." But you
Right.
need to know yourself well enough to say, I can stand in this. I meant for this to happen. I made that decision." And and I think I would suppose in your coaching that you help people understand what their choices are and what the consequences of those choices are and let them choose. And when we have all of that material in front of us, we can make better decisions because, we might want Y as a consequence, but we'd be happy if we got X on the way to Y. It's just like nothing is ever always or nothing.
Yeah. Right.
It's always a
That's
journey
true.
and things are always changing. And to just be able to equip people with the idea that it's okay. We can change our stories. We can change the meaning of the stories, which is really the most impactful thing. 'Cause Marissa Peers used to say, tell yourself a better lie. I love that.
Yeah, I feel like, yes, we do. We do talk about choices, and I really try to create an environment for my clients to tune in, like what actually feels true for you. What feels true for you? Like let's not even think about the consequences yet. And I get a lot of information from my body. Um, I see things, I hear things too, but really for me, the body communicates with us, and I think that that's true for everybody. It's just how in tune are we with our own body, and so earlier in my business, I was more in a consulting role. I was more about telling people what to do and giving them advice, and that's changed over the years from and I still love giving people advice. But not everybody wants your advice, right? And so to be able to help people come to those decisions on their own, I think is actually um, sometimes more productive and powerful because it's their own decision, right? You might be able to see it, very clearly. But when somebody comes to it on their own, and they're connected in with their own truth, and they're understanding that, hey, this signal in my body means yes, like yes, let's do this, even though my mind is saying no, 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 or we have to wait, or are you sure? That can be very powerful for a client, to have someone to hold that space for them, where they start to orient themselves to, oh, this is actually what truth feels like in my body, right?
I
and
admire
and
that.
then the consequence, and then we can kind of look at the consequences of things. But even just that initial step of getting connected into the truth is so different than what we've been brought up with, right? We've been taught to override what feels true in our body.
Absolutely. It's the holding space for other people to be able to allow them to formulate their own thoughts, have their own space to to create. And sometimes it's for some of us, and I'm like this a lot. I'm trying to work on it. It is one thing that I do work on. But to look at someone and say, "Oh, you should just do this." I try to be very careful with the word should in my life because no, really should does I don't have any place in the world where I should tell somebody should. They can do whatever they want. Often people have just been should upon so much that they don't realize that they have all of this power. And so they relinquish it to other people to tell them what to do. They look to other people for guidance or expectations. When if you can just hold the space for them and listen and guide them gently, it's like, no, you get a little close to the edge there, you're gonna fall off. It's a little nudge.
Yeah.
What they come up with is so amazing.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's one of the things that I love about coaching is it's not, it's meeting, yes, it's meeting people where they are, but it's also they're learning a skill too, right? Like
Mhm.
they're learning how to trust themselves and recognize that, oh, I am a powerful creator. I just maybe need some practice with this. And I believe, we're here for the experience,
Mhm.
right? And so sometimes we make decisions and we don't know how that's going to go. I think sometimes we're attached to a specific outcome, and then when we don't get that outcome, we're disappointed, and um, or we feel like, oh gosh, I'll never do that again. And for me, I see it, it's all information. It's all information, right? And so it's okay if we make mistakes. It's okay if it didn't go the way that we thought, or it's okay that we didn't get the ideal. What's the information that I can distill from this to refine this, do it differently, decide whether I want to try this again? And I think that that is a powerful reframe,
Mhm.
because we can easily go into fire, everything sucks, nothing is working for me. And trust me, I've been there. I've been in that space,
Yeah, everybody goes through that.
and it's okay to be in that space, right? It's learning how to feel what you need to feel if you are in that space, and take care of yourself, and just slow down and pause until you can come back at it with a clearer mind and clearer sight, and say, okay, all right, this didn't go the way I wanted it to go, but what can I take away from this to maybe show up differently, do things differently, or try something different?
And sometimes you can just appreciate what did go right about it. Because in
And that
everything,
too.
again, nothing is always or never. It's a combination of stuff. And the experience that we're having is a contrast, an experience of contrasts. I liked this, not so much. I hope I don't have that experience again. But Doesn't mean it's not going to come around again because sometimes, we need the lesson a couple of times in order to cement it in
Mhm.
our heads. We all have those experiences.
Yeah,
So,
that's exactly it. It's funny you said experience of contrast, and I often call them lessons in contrast. But I like the way that you frame it because it's a sifting and a sorting, right? And I feel like that helps keep us in a more empowered place
mhm,
to experience life.
yes. So, how does your coaching look? Is it like one-on-one? Is it group? Is it courses? But
It's a mix, yes. So I am working one-on-one with clients because I love one-on-one. I probably will forever be doing one-on-one work because it's intimate.
mm,
And I actually really enjoy it. I also do intimate small group retreats. I've done workshops. I've done small group programs. I'm definitely not the the big, let's get 20, 30, 50 people into this program kind of person because the work that I do is intimate and it requires a level of creating safety for people because I'm inviting them to really be authentic and be vulnerable and that's that's not necessarily for the masses, right? So yeah, that's basically what my coaching looks like. I love to do workshops. Um, I love to do retreats, and I do that one-on-one coaching with individuals.
and how do people find you to work with you? Like,
So
where would they go?
yeah, can you elaborate on that question?
Where would they go to get in contact with you and
Yeah,
to
you
work
can
with you?
find me at gaylnowak.com. That's my website.
Mhm.
And I'm also very active on LinkedIn. That is my social media platform of choice. I do have a presence on Facebook and Instagram, but in full transparency, I don't focus a lot of time and energy there. So, really, my website and LinkedIn are the best places to find me.
Perfect. And we talked about what does your heart have to say about growing your business? So I'd like you to talk about that a little bit, and then you can share your special surprise.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so if you go to my website, gailnowak.com, you'll see there that there's something called the Talk to Your Heart Assessment. And it's a downloadable PDF. It's also, it comes with a little meditation, and it's really to help you start to tune in to how you're feeling about your business, how you're feeling about your life, and start working that muscle of, oh, what does that truth feel like in my body? It's really meant to help people get out of their head because a lot of us are living from the neck up. That
Mhm.
was definitely me. Um, as well, being a Gemini and an air sign, like very much mental energy. But this is really designed to help you kind of drop down into your body, connect with your heart, and connect with your truth. And then there's some questions and journaling and prompts to help you, kind of evaluate how am I feeling about my business right now? And what might I want to maybe spend some time focusing on and or changing or celebrating. So there's that. And then I also have a new resource that I recently put together called the Soulful Story course. It's a mini email course and it's designed to help you begin crafting and sharing your authentic story with clarity, with energetic alignment, and with confidence. And that's
I like
available
it.
at my website as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today, Gail. This has been a great conversation.
Thank you, Jill. It's been an honor and I've had a lot of fun and enjoyed it.
Thank you. To learn more about Gail and to get access to what does your heart have to say about growing your business and to find the Story course, please visit GayleNowak.com. That's GayleNowak.com. And I'll be sure to put those links in the show notes below. Thank you for tuning in with us today. If you have a podcast or you're interested in starting one to get your message in front of our huge and active audience, be sure to reach out to us at support@heartlifecoach.com. We love to help spiritual entrepreneurs and coaches amplify their voice and monetize their mission, and offer a variety of ways to do this on Substack. Join us for our next episode as we share what others are doing to raise the global frequency. And remember, change begins with you. You have all the power to change the world. Start today and get visible.